All right, guys.
Impressive.
Well, welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast. And as usual,
Get off of my thing, please.
I'm not on it.
Somebody was.
Oh, I didn't move my feet. It was you. Why do you do that? You blame us for everything, and then the moment, wonder where we get it from.
I didn't feel anything under my foot.
My
you
ears
moved your
felt
foot. You moved your foot, and his cord went loose.
Okay.
This is what fathers do. They just blame everybody else, and then act like they didn't do anything.
This is what fathers do. They put up with this.
Apple doesn't
I
fall
have
far
to
from
be
the tree.
a cowboy and hold my lasso the whole time so you guys don't step on me.
Well, you ain't a very good cowboy because they don't call it a lasso.
Sometime today we're going to do a podcast,
Whatever.
but we can't, if we can ever get them to shut up, which is probably not going to happen anytime soon.
Isn't the whole point for us to talk?
You're goofy. I understand it's a cool cup, but I don't know that drinking out of the side of your mouth to drink out of the cup makes it any
I
cooler.
got a microphone in my way.
His
Okay,
lips are
whatever.
frozen because Grizzly keeps us so cold. It doesn't work. All
right. So welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast, folks, and we're glad you're here. And as always, I am being joined by two very special guests. Today, more special than normal. But at the same time, we want to thank you guys again. You guys are unbelievable with following instruction. I love it. You guys do extraordinary work. Been passing the podcast on to other people and then also leaving reviews. We got one review here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but a big shout out to Bowhunter 101715. Appreciate that 5-star review, my friend. And hopefully you're listening to this one because today we're going to go a little more in depth on the turkey situation.
We've also had quite a few people reach out through the website.
Oh, yeah?
And I don't know if you reach out through the website so we don't shout you out. But the people that have reached out through the website, you know who you are, and we appreciate you as well. But if you want us to shout you out from that aspect as well, just make sure you throw it in there and say, hey, here's a podcast topic. I'd love to be shouted out. Anyways, we appreciate you.
Shouted out. That's not even correct English. So
what do you say?
That you had been...
I'd like to be shout out?
No, would like to be...
shouted out.
Pointed out or
brought
for you to
Give
attention.
me a shout out.
Okay, whatever.
That made more sense.
Okay, what we're gonna try to do today is we're gonna go a little more in depth on the turkey situation, strategically or technically. We're going to be working
Technically, this is in English. Yeah,
here we
this
go.
is this
talking
is an
about
English
decoys
podcast.
And some different variations that we do with decoys, and then what has become a controversial topic in the use of decoys when it comes to reaping turkeys. And if you're not familiar with reaping turkeys, stay tuned because we're going to talk about it. All right. So who wants to go first? Because I love decoys.
I think we can start with the different types of hunting, but what we prefer. So, like I just went and hunted Alabama.
Shoot them in the face.
Well, okay. We've hunted a lot. You've hunted Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Warren's hunted Nebraska, Idaho, Montana for birds. Like, we've hunted quite a few different places. And I would say your majority or your normal, I guess the majority of people are either using decoys. And I would say as long as it's legal, because like Alabama, first 10 days can't use it.
Yep.
But as long as it's legal, I think the majority of people enjoy using a decoy. Gives them a little extra. Where it comes into play of the different kinds would be sitting in a blind, sitting maybe having brush in front of you or something, or just against flat out a tree, nothing in front of you. So what out of those, let's just assume that you are using decoys, or maybe explain why you wouldn't in a certain situation. Which one do you prefer?
Ooh, that's easy for me, but if you want to answer that question, you can.
So what was the question again? That was a long-winded question.
Which way do you prefer to hunt turkeys?
Assuming you're using decoys, do you want to use, do you sit against a tree? Do you sit with some form of cover in front of you? Do you sit in a blind? Those are like your three main. There's probably others, but those are your main ones that people are doing.
Well, I think.
And I'm not including reaping right now.
I haven't done it a lot, but I like sitting outside of a blind because I think it's a totally different. It's amazing how different it is when you don't have the blind there, how different, I guess, the perspective is or how it feels. But I think with bow hunting, it's really hard to do it without, especially when we're filming and everything, without a blind.
Without having something to cover you.
But I've said that for a long time, and I've tried once or twice. I'd really like to shoot one with a bow with no blind And I've seen some other guys do it. I had one that I should have killed, but when I came to full draw, I didn't see a limb above me, and I hit that limb, and then it was just a total debacle, and I busted him.
Debacle.
It is a debacle.
He said debacle.
Yeah,
It's debacle?
No, it's D with a D.
D.
Oh, really?
Debacle, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm questioning it.
No, because debacle is like the Tabernacle Choir or something. You're not even
Who
got
knows
that
what that is?
right. But debacle is the D. D.
Debacle. Debacle.
That's
and we got
sure.
into debacle. I think it's a T. I'm with Warren.
I called it technically, so you can call it a
You got it,
debacle.
Nick?
It is debacle. I promise you. You don't even need to. I'll even spell it for you.
You can't spell debacle.
Debacle.
Really?
With a D?
Oh.
Interesting. Okay. Anyways.
This is an English class today.
All right.
Okay, so I got into a debacle. I don't like that word anymore.
Yeah, me either. It doesn't sound
just
as
going to
good.
go with debacle. So anyways, I was in a debacle after that. And,
Just change the English language because I feel like it.
well, you guys knew what I meant, right? You meant what I knew. Anyways, I've shot a couple with a shotgun, just calling them in like that. One of the next things I would like to try is I'd like to do outside the blind, no decoy, and trying to call them in like elk. You know, like have a caller behind you. I think that'd be cool.
See, I don't find that it's when you add a bow or doing it some form of where you got to move.
It's because there's movement
there's
involved
movement.
right when they get there.
And I think that, number one, doing it outside of a blind, actually, I don't have permission to share his name, but I have a buddy that killed one last year just sitting against a tree with his bow. And I think that the hardest part, if you can use a decoy, then you can get them to, at least as long as they're strutting, as long as you can sit still for a minute, let them strut, and when they turn around or something and their head's behind their fan, get to full draw. The issue I've always thought about with that, because I haven't actually done it yet, would be like in a blind, you have a bird coming in, and you're on your chair or whatever, and you can get down, and you move your chair if you have to or whatever. You can move a little bit. I'm not about to sit on my freaking knees for
2 hours.
2-3 hours waiting on a bird to come in. So what is your, like, how are you going to sit against a tree and then just, okay, I hear a bird close maybe, and then get on your knees and wait? Or are you just training to shoot from your butt? If that's the case, though, you can't sit with the tree on your background. So, like, if you're against the tree and you're on the side of it, so that, like, for me, tree would be right behind me, and I'm left-handed, then when they come in, then what am I going to do? Then I'm silhouetted. Well, then, like, there's nothing behind me. So
there's more trees behind you.
It does. Even if there is more tree, I mean, unless there's one like right here, it's still going to look like a silhouette somewhat. They're going to see me sticking out.
You could
from
always
that
cut
tree.
a limb or two and stick them in the ground.
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
don't think they would as long as you don't move. I don't think
Maybe.
they care. What about, are you using a decoy?
Yeah, I would use a decoy.
Well, then you just
Solely
put the decoy wherever you need it.
I would love to just call it in, but for my first time doing it, I would like to do it with a decoy to distract them enough to at least get them to strut right there, because that's what's going to give me the opportunity to draw.
Yeah.
And then after I got that under my belt, if I did, I would try it without a decoy just for the challenge. But I think, now that one, I would say, I'm sure there's guys out there that do it, or somebody's going to message in and say they've done it or something.
Done what?
And
Sat
probably
outside?
sat with a bow without a decoy. That, like, props to you. If you do it once, I'm still going to give you props. Maybe it was a fluke. But if you're doing, like, if that's how you turkey hunt, we need to learn something from them, because that would be.
You know how else I'd like to shoot one?
Huh?
You know how else I'd like to
With a
try to shoot
whopper
one?
chopper.
Well,
Yeah, let's
that's
hear it.
obviously a given. Out of a tree stand.
See, I
With
keep
decoys.
trying
I
to tell
almost did it.
you. I can tell you, though, that you do.
Not like fall where they just come walking
Oh.
by.
I know.
In the spring, like have my
Right.
decoy set up below me.
and you
sit
know
in
how
my-
busted you're going to get?
What's different than sitting on the ground?
Because I think they're even more afraid of the stuff they're constantly watching for hawks and eagles and things swoop down on them from the time they're little tiny chicks. They're scared to death.
Okay, just out of curiosity.
Not that
here.
it can't be done, but
I kind of understand why you're saying that, but at the same time, I want to question why in the world do you want to sit in a tree stand and shoot a turkey?
I don't know. It just seems like it'd be cool.
I don't know. He's trying to make it harder when you don't need it any harder than it already is.
I don't know. I feel like you'd be above them enough that they
No.
wouldn't pay you
I'm
attention.
No,
telling you
he's
right now,
referring to
I'm-
you specifically. That's what he was just saying.
Oh, I know. It's already hard, so what's the difference if I make it a little harder?
But tree stand is just
What
not
logic does that make?
not not the way to go.
Okay, but
So was your question-
preference?
Okay, I
your
might try it
preference
now.
would be what?
Oh,
Like your go-to, like right now, if tomorrow's you're going turkey hunting in the morning, what are you taking a blind? Are you going to sit against a tree? Are you taking decoys? Are you not taking decoys?
Right now, I'm taking a blind and decoys.
Okay.
Maybe after I killed one, especially if I could whopper chopper
So if
one,
you got
then
two-
I would maybe get a little more creative.
Especially if you got 2 tags.
Yeah.
We
Or
get
like
2
when we
here.
go out west, I'm not carrying a blind and decoys all over
Yep.
the mountains, and so I'll probably just use a shotgun or just sit next to a tree because I don't want to
Well,
carry all that stuff.
I was just showing Warren the other day that I want to try. It would work great for a shotgun, and it would work great for like anybody trying to get their kids involved that do want to run and gun like that, where they sit against a tree. The Primos, they made that like stakeout thing.
Yeah,
that's
the stakeout
but,
blind.
it's stakeout blind, but see through too now. So it's basically like
Brushed
you
yourself
go
in a little
buy
bit.
like when you used to buy like the rolls or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like the mesh, and you could put that in front of you. It's nice, and you can get yourself covered. But now, like for Wyoming, when we go do that, because I don't want to carry a blind either. I'm not doing that. Screw that. But that thing's
We're gonna make
tiny.
Nick carry it.
So if we have Nick with us, we know we better cover him up pretty good. Otherwise, we're gonna get busted left and right. So I'll go here, Nick,
Movie
and throw the
McGee.
stake out. No, I'm totally kidding. Nick actually did really good sitting against a tree. But that thing would be great for one, new people or like getting your kids involved. 2, I really, really want to try it. I know it would work great for my shotgun sitting there. I don't know how great because I think my riser would be above the
It'd
thing
be
to shoot
hard
out
to
of.
shoot with a.
And it's triangle windows, so I don't know. But
It'd be hard.
that would be that would be something I kind of want to try even in Iowa here to not have to.
All right. Do I get to answer this question?
Yeah, I haven't even answered myself. So
Let's answer for Dad because I think
Go
we
ahead.
all know this.
let's
is gonna
grab a blind and a couple decoys, and we're just gonna go sit in the blind and be patient because they will show up eventually.
And it will work because it does, and he's proven it time and time again. But he doesn't want to throw any spice into it.
Yeah, no, I did all the spicy stuff before, and it sucks.
How many did you shoot out of a tree stand?
None. Well, I shot turkeys out of tree stand, but in the fall,
That's
never
too
in the spring.
spicy.
So he's not that spicy.
No, never in the spring. But I've
What's
done
the
the
spiciest
no
turkey
decoy
thing you ever did,
this on purpose.
or like the craziest encounter you ever had? Yeah, maybe
don't
on
know.
purpose or like just it happened. Because I think I can think of ours.
I can
Mine and yours?
Uh huh.
I can think.
I
of
can
two
think
or
of
three.
a couple. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say mine's, but like the very first bird I shot with my bow, that was 2.5 miles into the national forest in
Ugh.
Montana.
What is the
No,
goal?
no blind,
Why?
because I had to find turkeys. I killed one with a shotgun, so now I want to try
I'm
this
hunting
bow
a
hunting
different
thing.
animal.
You wait.
Done.
No blind
No blind.
decoys.
I had one decoy.
Okay.
Just
With a hen?
fold up one. No, it was a Jake. I can't remember who came out with it was like a, the styrofoam stuff that like you could roll. It weighed nothing. It weighed less than this cup.
Ugh.
And you
I'm
were
telling
just-
you right now, I'm
just
not hiking 2.5
Walking and
miles.
calling. And
No, I heard him the night before. I set my tent, and then when I was setting my tent, I thought I heard a turkey gobble. I had found a place that
You
was a
camped
burned.
in the woods for turkeys?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I drove 5.5 hours
Oh my gosh.
because it was the only
The
place.
driving, I don't mind. The fact that you okay.
It was the only place
each
that
their own, I
in
suppose.
Montana where you could get a second tag. The whole state wasn't 2 tags, and so.
Oh, so they had sections that were 2 tags?
Mhm. And this was a 2-tag area, so I drove all the way over to the Custard National Forest down by Ashland, Broadus, that area.
Jeez, don't give away spots.
Well, it's not like
Oh
I
man,
haven't
they're gonna
hunted
go
there in
turkey
25
hunt 2.5
years.
miles back.
We're gonna be within 2 hours there. Maybe we can hop up there.
That's a different state. But
We'll
anyhow,
say
long
hey to our
story short,
podcast
Link that out.
viewers.
the first thing that I found was a burn area. I stopped at the National Forest place. They told me where the burn area was. Next thing I found was all the Minnesota hunters that had come over. They were everywhere. And so I just kept driving until I wasn't around anyone.
Now it's
And-
going to be all the Raised Hunting podcast listeners.
That's right. And so I found a place, put my tent. I was going to camp there no matter what. And I thought as I was setting my tent up, I was like, I couldn't be that lucky. I think I just heard turkey gobble. And so I stopped, and then I started walking a little bit, and I heard him again. I'm like, that is a turkey. So I took off just to go see. I didn't have my bow, didn't have anything. And it was maybe 45 minutes before dark, and I got over, and I kind of had an idea where he was roosted at. I was like, this is awesome.
So you
So I had
did have
turkey-
to hunt the next morning.
I was planning on hunting the next morning. Well, he was so loud in the tree that I couldn't sleep that night because he was gobbling the entire night.
How does that not put you to sleep?
Because it was fun at first, and then at about midnight or 1 o'clock. And you got to remember, in the springtime like that out there, it's daylight at like 4:45 was legal shooting light.
Do turkeys actually sleep?
Killing.
They usually do.
I know they have to at some point, but
I've had birds. When you find that bird that gobbles all night,
I just heard what you said in my head.
What did you say?
So is a vengeance killing is what it was.
Kind of, but no. I will say this, and this was just a tip that I thought of. Every bird that I've ever had that gobbled that crazy, I heard him in the evening and he wouldn't stop, and I left him.
When they get off.
And then the next morning they were still doing the same. Killed them all.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were going to say the moment they touched the ground, they're done.
The bird in Idaho. I mean, he was freaking.
That thing was possessed.
Yeah, he was going nuts, and he came in like that.
And so you killed him next to a tree with your bow.
So I got over there, and I got set up, and then it turned out there was more than one. I didn't know that at the time. So I set my decoy, and I'm on a hill. There's nothing flat about this. I'm on this hillside. I set my decoy up below me about 15 yards to my left because I'm a right-handed shooter. And I was like, all right, I'm set, man. And I made a couple calls, and
this is before dark, or
no? This is in the next morning.
Yeah,
right? I got set up before daylight.
Okay, so they were still roosted.
They were still roosted, and
how far? 100 yards?
Yeah, maybe 100 yards because of the way the terrain laid. I was pretty close.
Okay.
And next thing I know, though, there's a bird gobbling below me, and then I thought I heard one above me, and then it just got mixed up. I didn't know where anyone was at, and I thought I lost them. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, gosh, I don't know what to do. And all of a sudden, I hear, I'm like, oh, man, and I had a little bit of netting I'd put on the tree in front of me because I expected him to come up the hill, and the decoy's to my left like on a little saddle. I was like, this is perfect. Well, I'm hearing this, and I can't figure out where it is, but I'm outside of the blind, so I can't just look. So I'm like, where? And then I hear a rock roll behind me, and it goes rolling down the hill, and I was like, he's freaking right here beside me. And I like trying to look as best I can, and I finally get just enough of a glance to see the part of a fan, and he's walking right behind me. He walks probably within 3-4 yards of me, and I just stayed there like this, looking this way, and just like, I hope he sees. He's got to see the decoy. That's got to be what he's doing. And then waited and waited and waited until I saw him come out, and then he's walking straight away, and he's going toward the decoy, and I turned like that and came to full draw. And right as I did, he still saw me somehow, or he heard something, and he popped out of a strut just for a second, or like partially out of the strut, but at that point I was too late. I shot that sucker.
I think, and maybe you guys will agree.
What's that?
Good
oh,
shot.
Yeah. When I went to call Mom, it wasn't even 5 o'clock yet. It was like 4:55, and I was like, oh, I better not call her. I was super excited. Yeah, good shot.
I
Long pack out.
One of the worst things.
At
Oh,
flip
my
phone.
gosh.
Dad had his sat phone.
Yeah, I had a flip phone.
Hey, Mom.
I think one of the worst. He wouldn't have said, hey, Mom.
Well, you know what I meant.
At least I'd hope not. The worst feelings in hunting is when you hear an animal. It could be close, but in whatever position that you're in, and you can't look.
Right.
And you know they're there. And like waiting, that situation, I don't know if it'd be worse or better because you are like, okay, pretty logically, he's probably going to be coming in. So just be patient and he'll come into your sight. But in like situations where I can't move on a deer or something, I hate being able to hear them right behind me and not being able to look.
Oh, yeah. Like
it is like
during the rut.
so uncomfortable.
Well, you got to convince yourself that he doesn't see you.
Yeah.
Because, I could hear him walking. I mean, for those of you that haven't turkey hunted enough yet to hear one strutting, when those wings are rubbing the ground and he's right behind you, like it sounded like he was like he was gonna hit me.
Or if you do turkey hunt a lot, pay attention to that because it took. I don't know how long it was. You had told me. I guess I kind of had an idea of what like drumming or spitting was, but I never, unless you actually pay, especially drumming, unless you actually know what the sound is or you're listening for it, you don't.
You may hear it and not know it.
You don't think anything of it. But then once you hear it the first time, then you start like every bird that comes in. And it's really cool.
You feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a cool
That's
deal.
something to look out for.
So anyhow, that started so that's where I was going with the reason that I like the blind, the reason I like the decoys, the reason I like motion in my decoys is because those little suckers have won so many times when I was doing everything else that I was trying to even the playing field. Still to this day, how many turkeys do we have that walk out and go, I'm not going over there? And then
it doesn't matter for you. You're going to kill them eventually anyways.
Well, that's because I've figured I've
poor
learned
birds.
that.
There's no even play a field for a bird anymore for you. If there's a bird in the area, he's gonna die if you want him to die.
No, there's still usually the 3 at the house. There's always 3 at the house, and those are usually the hardest 3 birds to kill.
And you do though.
Mom's killed one of them.
After the first week.
After the first
I
week.
I would honestly say the first week, it's not that fair. I'd say, like, if we really think about it, like if you put a pen to paper, especially last year, I'll bet it was that saw the decoy, 75% that came in.
I don't know. I just was in Nebraska.
We killed how many in a row?
Yeah, I killed 11.
11 in 3 days?
No, 11 in a week. Well, no, that's not true. No, because we went to Nebraska first, and that's where 3 of them came from. So then the next 8 came all in 5 days, 8 of them in a row.
Yeah.
And so how many?
He killed the one for Joey that I couldn't get to come in, and then he killed that, and then turned around. Was it that evening?
That one was definitely a patience one.
Oh, 100%, and I was not in for it.
I know.
And then was it that night that you took me and we reaped the other one?
No, it was next morning.
Yeah. So.
And then.
Alyssa's
was that week there in the morning. Nick's was that second day. I'm pretty sure
I had
mine
2.
was the first day. Yours was
first morning.
We have a pretty cool show coming out for that.
And that was only there's only 1 reap in there.
1 reap his.
Yeah, that's the only one that we showed.
Yeah, there's 2 reaps, but I didn't get a shot on mine. That was after yours.
You should have killed. Yeah, that was I shot mine. We're driving back to Dad's house. And I'm like, Dad, there's 2 toms right there, and they're on your property. He goes, yeah, but we got to get your bird up there. I said, no. Get your freaking bow and grab the decoy, and we're going. I'll film. And so I just stood behind a tree while he crawled up to him, and they came in the right way. But that's when Dad was messing with his shoulder stuff.
My shoulder, I couldn't draw.
And they came in such a screwed up position that it was like, even if you had a fully healthy shoulder, it would have been difficult. But they came in.
Yeah.
Like if
it almost worked.
Yeah.
So anyhow, but I mean, there's still you say it works every time. I just came from Nebraska where 34 turkeys or 45 turkeys came out of the timber. 11 of them came straight to the decoy just like they were supposed to. 34 of them didn't have any part of it. And that included the big toms. Big toms stayed with their hens over on the other side. So it ain't no slam dunk.
I said 75%.
Okay.
Not 100.
Well, I don't have an answer for my own question. Because if I'm thinking about going out tomorrow morning, not saying it's turkey season, but in that theoretical, I really want to try that stakeout blind just against a tree because it's so simple, and I don't want to carry a blind in. But at the same time, I'm like, ew, especially if I'm gonna have Joey, he's gonna try to do it with his bow. I'm like, I'm not in the mode to probably not use a blind. So I guess now I can probably answer it. I'm going to have to use a blind for the first bird or 2. Use a blind and decoys.
Well, I will say, though, turkeys are the one animal that I would pick up a shotgun in a hurry.
I don't mind doing it either.
Because you still got to get them close. They still got to do everything right. And
they can still charge you.
Yeah, and I still enjoy shooting them with a shotgun. So
I don't mind.
Yeah. All right, so we've done like what we'd be doing right now if there's one version of type of hunting a turkey. Maybe you've already done it. I know you probably have a couple and you've kind of touched on it. What would be one thing that you would do right now? We'd like to try.
I think we should start with setting up or end with the setting up your decoys for a bow hunt, because I think it's important to understand how to set them up.
Yeah.
The other one is, I mean, we can start with a shotgun guy, no decoy. You know, what are you doing there? What is the goal? The goal is to get as close to that roost tree as possible.
So we just totally ignored what my question was, but it's okay.
Well, what is the question?
Let's talk about that, Dad. Let's talk about which one you want to do first, shotguns?
I could answer your question.
What?
For me, honestly, I'm still trying to accomplish, I think you guys are at a stage that is above what I am as far as like you have conquered sitting in a blind and using decoys and getting turkeys to come in, where there's other people that maybe they haven't gotten to that point where they've really figured them out yet. And then there's people like myself where I have accomplished that part, but I can't kill them to save my life. I can hit them. I can't kill them. And so for me, like, that's kind of the next thing first, is I want to figure out a way for Warren to be able to kill them first.
Go 2 for 2 in Iowa with your bow.
Yeah, like get on a little bit of a streak, and then I can get adventurous.
I support.
So it's going to either be whopper choppers or a hinge. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay. Yeah, you've explained your hinge theory.
Mm-hmm. Or
That's
a back
fair.
or a back tension, one of the two.
I just want to sit against a tree.
I still don't know what the question is.
If you could pick some different version of what your go-to is.
Oh,
He's saying adventuring out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I said you may have already probably tried the
no, the
majority
one
of
that
them,
the one that I would like to do, and I saw a guy do it last year. Cameraman behind you, like maybe he's in a blind,
Yep.
and you're sitting outside the blind, and you shoot the turkey like a ghillie suit,
Yeah.
laying right there with him.
Yeah.
And then you pop up and
With your bow?
oh yeah.
How are you ever gonna get away with that?
How do you
I
pop
watched
up?
someone do it last year. I won't mention his name, but you know him.
He popped up.
Yeah, he sat right up.
Recurve?
No, he had a compound.
What's their initials?
LM. He doesn't live around here.
Is he in the industry?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's an awesome video. It's awesome. He did a good job. My hat's off to him.
Well, I definitely would say that mine would be I'll probably do it with a bow at some point just to try it. But I just would like, and I'm not saying that it's crazy hard, but put just a decoy or two out and sit against a tree I wouldn't put a camera guy in a blind either. Make him sit against a tree, like right behind me, right next to me. And let's do it.
Have you
It
ever
wouldn't be that hard, but
Have you ever met anybody that spot and stalked one?
I've talked to some
I've met
people.
a few people do that. That'd be
Oh my
freaking hard.
gosh.
Well, I killed a couple with my shotgun that way.
I know
Not
one.
with my bow, but I mean, I could have shot him with my bow.
Me and
'Cause-
Dad almost did it one day. You remember the one down? I don't want to say the name. We don't hunt it anymore. Older lady.
Oh yeah.
And there was birds. There was two fields, and there was one ditch going down the center of it, and they were strutting in the back corner of it. And so we were just gonna slide down the ditch because it's deep, and so they wouldn't know, and then just pop up like with a fan or something. I bet if we would have done that right, that would have been a great situation. By the time we got there, they were already moved out of the field.
Right.
But if you could have caught them at the right time, you could sneak up that ditch, and then if you just really slowly got to where you could just barely see over the thing, you could shoot them right there.
They'd be tough,
cedar-
though, 'cause
cedar
they
trees
move
are-
so much in there.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, but not during loafing time.
Yeah, but their
And they're
eyeballs are just so good too.
Yeah, but loafing time, they're just sitting underneath those cedars, and I've walked up on them, and
All
they're
right.
just strutting around doing nothing.
So for the guy that we can do shotgun. You're I guess is it really? I mean, you'd set it up maybe a little different if you're using a blind or just sitting against a tree. But
Well, I mean, I think
I
if I'm
guess
sitting
if
against
you
a
start
tree,
without it, assuming they're not using a decoy.
Yep. then
Let's-
you want good cover.
okay,
Because that
so
bird's coming looking for what he hears.
Yep.
So he's going to key in on where he thinks. Meaning, what typically happens now is we call until and then they see the decoy. Now there's who I thought I heard. That won't happen now.
But even in that situation, you can call a little bit because they have a decoy for reference.
For sure.
But if you have a bird coming in that you have no decoys or anything, be quiet.
Yeah, you won't.
Don't say anything because they're going to look right at you.
Yeah, they're going to pick.
Unless you're doing it to get their head to pop up so you can shoot them real quick,
Yep.
and that's it. But
other than that, calling's got to be less often, more effective. I mean, you're depending on your calling now.
Yep.
And so then understanding that, if a guy or gal is going to do that, your calling has got to be better than just the average,
Does that even
person
really
doing
come
it.
to the calling though, or is that more? Because I feel like there's some situations where it wouldn't matter how good you call, and they'll come in and they get to 50 yards and they can't see anything, and they're still going to hang up.
Oh yeah.
I think
Well,
maybe
that's
that might be
also-
like how you're calling, like volume in which you're.
part of that's the
Projecting
amount
and-
too. I think the amount of calls that you've thrown out there.
Part of that though could be pressure that the
Yeah.
bird's been through, whether years before or during, but one of the things that I relied on a lot when I hunted without a blind was scratching the leaves. And I don't do that near as much now that I find when I'm in a blind. I found that I forget that you can still do that in the blind. It's probably not as loud. You probably need to do it louder, but I used to do it a lot. I also used to do a lot of wing flapping.
Yep.
I carried a wing for a while. You can also just bang your hand against your pants, like on the loose part of your pants.
Oh, we saw plenty of that at the turkey calling contest.
Yeah,
here.
those guys need a little practice. But
I do that with like when I'm sitting in a blind for deer. If I'm rattling, I rattle on the ground.
oh yeah.
I get the leaves with it and everything too.
But and then the other thing that becomes critical in that is a choke for your shotgun, making sure that you got that gun patterned the way you
Go
want to.
shoot
'cause
your
typically-
shotgun. Don't do what me and Joey did.
Yeah, you want to make sure you shoot the shotgun. And no.
What I'm referring to there, for anybody that doesn't know, Joey killed his first bird last year, and we shot a shotgun, but we didn't go get a special choke or anything, and we definitely didn't get the right loads, because at 10 yards or 8 yards, he shot his bird, aimed for the head, covered the entire body. Absolutely
it looked like he got hit by buckshot.
Yeah, that was not a...
Yeah, that would not have been good at 30 yards. He probably wouldn't have killed that turkey. So that's a good thing they came close. Okay, so that's number one. That's guy, that's the setup of you're going to go out and you're going to hunt just by using calls. And, and that's where I would tell you that a lot of people my age or older, that's probably where they started. All these decoys weren't around. All the blinds weren't around and things like that. And so one of the hugest inventions way back when was the vest.
Oh, yeah.
Turkey vest, man, it makes all the difference in the world because you had all your stuff kind of conveniently where you needed it. And then
that was the hugest invention.
It revolutionized turkey season for me because it put everything organized and it gave me a dry butt.
Yeah, that's
because they
nice
had a
too.
seat in it, and then I could fold it up, and also you could put your turkey in it and haul them out.
So for the guy that is, or girl, either starting or just looking to get into turkey hunting, maybe that's probably going to be it might be your most difficult way to hunt them, but your easiest to get into it.
Absolutely, cheapest
all
way.
you need, as long as you have some camo or something to cover you up, and then if you can borrow a shotgun or you got a shotgun or something, and then a call. As long as you're pretty sufficient with it, you can get away with one call. It'd be nice to have more, but
that's probably one thing you could touch on too with turkeys. It's a lot different than deer. Is your camo does matter because they can see colors.
Yep. But now remember, if one wins you, then you've had a really bad day.
Yeah, that's just not a thing. So that would be the cheapest option to get started with, and probably the most difficult to learn, in my opinion. Maybe you guys disagree with that, but I think that if you don't know a bird well enough, it's going to be very hard to call them in without anything.
I think you could still get good interactions.
Yeah.
There's some birds that I think you get good encounters. Maybe killing them could be a little different.
Yeah.
Because there's some birds that it doesn't matter how good your call is or how terrible it is, that you just hit something and he's coming.
Yeah. Oh,
there's some that are that way, but there's also some that you hit one yelp and here they come.
Right.
All right. So what's the next one? You're using a decoy.
I think a shotgun guy got a decoy
in a blind or sitting against trees.
I say outside of a blind still. That's the element now that person, because I think that is kind of the way it trended, at least for me it did. It started with, okay, I'm sitting against a tree. Next thing I know, I'm sitting against a tree, and why not add a decoy? Man, that would really be cool. They're not looking at me. I add some realism to my setup. I got two things they're relying on. They can hear me and see me, and now maybe I'll get away with a little more, and it just seemed like the next thing. And it wasn't, even the decoys of today aren't hard to carry. I mean, it depends. Now, when you carry 3 or 4 of them, then they get hard to carry. But
an avian is not that easy to carry.
I won't carry them.
No, but if you were just carrying a hen, hen,
yeah,
I mean, that's not a big deal.
It'd be like a football on your back, yeah.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
So, but anyhow,
are you using the same type of setup? You using less decoys? Because
that's what we're gonna make.
Not that I'm saying what
the football decoy.
Oh Lord, we got another funky chicken coming.
You could just chuck it out there,
Yeah.
Like you see
and
them
it
over
pops
there, and you
into
need
a turkey.
Yeah, and you need them to see it over there, and you just throw your football turkey. That'd be
You're
awesome.
an idiot.
Yeah, you are an idiot.
But if it were me going out right now, I'd carry my same exact setup for decoys. Sit against a tree. Are you using one decoy? Are you using 2? Same thing as what you do in a blind?
Again, it depends on what I'm doing, the terrain and everything. If I got a long ways to go, I'm not packing all the stuff we pack.
I'm just assuming somewhere like Iowa for hunting. We don't have that far to go to most of them.
Right. Then I love my decoy setup. And that's 3 decoys, and I'm packing them pretty much everywhere.
A male and 2
You
hens
change yours a
typically.
little bit.
I do. I will change it out some. Yes. I mean, I'll change it out considerably depending on the time of the year.
I was going to say, because you were on a kick there for a while of the 3/4 strut Jake.
Oh, I hate it.
And then I think now you've used a strutter.
Been back to the strutter
year or two.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to make myself try that 3/4
Oh, the
Jake
3/4
again,
strut Jake.
because you were like loving it, and then everybody I've talked to like, yeah, I'll use that or the strutter. I'm like, if I put that freaking 3/4 strut out, the birds running the other way
See, I wonder
every time. I never had luck with it.
Shane and I were just in Nebraska, and the day before the 45 turkeys came out, and they didn't come in. We had a lone tom with 2 Jakes. 2 Jakes came out first in the field, saw our decoys was coming. And then the lone tom came out. He saw the decoy, turned around and went back.
What was out?
And that was a strutter. And I wonder had we had one of the Jakes, if he would have been okay, because he was following those 2 Jakes. And I knew it was after the fact. It happened too fast. We had seen him get his butt kicked by the main tom in the flock.
Did the Jakes come?
The Jakes, they didn't come all the way in either. They got to like 30 yards, quit. 35, 40 yards, but he only got to like 120.
I think sometimes it's impossible to guess because other ones got beat up by a Jake, and so they're not coming
They
to
avoid
the Jake.
Yeah, so I just stick to one.
The thing I do like about the
I mean,
tom,
I'll
though,
use multiple decoys, but
I think that it looks so realistic, especially when you have a real fan on there. And I think you just get a little bit more movement where you can kind of hide their head and stuff. That's one thing I don't like as much about like the 3/4 strut Jake is the fact they can see its head. Like the entire time. I think there is value in them not being able to see their
Right.
Yeah, trying to get around the decoy to see it.
So,
It's true.
but there's multiple setups for decoys, and I think if I'm a shotgun guy, biggest thing is distance. Like we push a turkey will come directly to a decoy.
Yep.
They won't always do that, but you can. They're not afraid to come over and have interaction with that decoy. Thump on it, jump on it, crawl around,
it helps
climb
that
up on the
majority
hand.
of turkey decoys don't come apart like a deer does.
Yeah. And so my point is, though, if you're setting your decoys at 25 yards, you're probably getting your shots at 35 yards if you're hunting with a shotgun. But if
they're not coming in.
Yeah, if they hang up at all or whatever, but if you'll set your decoys at 15, 20 yards, then hopefully your shot's 25 yards or at the decoy at 20.
Yep.
That's not what I thought Dad was going to say.
What do you think he's going to say?
He said, they're not afraid to come over and have
Oh.
I thought he was going to say intercourse with me.
Well, we've had them do that too. I've had a lot of turkeys try to breed we just did the other
That's
day.
why
I'm just shaking my head at once.
Well, and then you're like, and they don't break, and then I'm like thinking of all the ones we've had standing on the decoys, pumping the crap out of it.
What sucks is when you start with 3 decoys, you open the bag and there's 15 of them in there.
Oh my gosh. That was the dumbest dad joke I've heard in a while.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't bought a decoy in years. They just keep multiplying.
I just let the tom breed it before I kill it.
That'd be so awesome.
That would be nice. I wouldn't be so worried about somebody shooting my decoy anymore.
Yeah. We
So-
could sell those, our margins would be phenomenal.
That'd be funny.
But the one that everyone needs to understand when you're setting your decoys is which way, and we're past this as well in where we are, but some people can't use, some places you cannot use motion, or it can't be electric motion.
I was going to say, I've never heard of one that you can't use motion.
No, I think any of them that you have a decoy, you can run a string out there and move it
Yeah.
yourself if you want.
Something that's not electrically powered.
Correct.
Or
Yep.
some form of engine.
Yep, and what I used to always use is fishing line, and it first came from Primos. Sold the B Mobile and Killer B that way, where they have a little ring in the front, so you could turn him, and then you could also pull on it and dump the tail.
That is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a really cool deal. It makes a big. And you always have your little shake.
I do it all the time.
Yeah.
That is my trick. It freaking works, though. Why wouldn't I do it?
It's amazing the difference, though, that just when one time moving that tail, like when they're kind of thinking about it still, and then all of a sudden, oh, yep, it's legit, and here they come.
I've had that work for reaping where I've crawled up and they won't do it, and then I just crouch down even more and start doing that little tail thing, and I'm like, all right, they're coming now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if you're going to set your decoys, you always want to set your hens with their head facing away from you, whether you're sitting against a tree, whether you're in a blind, and the reason is because the tom is going to come to the tail of the hen. He's always going to try to come in as though he's going to breed it, and then exact opposite with your male decoy. If you're setting a Jake or you're setting a tom, you want his head facing the blind so that he'll have to swing around to get to the head because they're going to try to.
Does it matter that much with the hen, though? Because if he's going to come up to the decoy, you're probably going to...
Hopefully you're going to shoot him anyhow, but I guess I start erring in that direction because we bow hunt so much and we need him to stay.
And
or we need him to be there as long as possible.
A big tip for your decoys, whether you have one that like the fan drops like we're talking about or anything, even just taking a regular strutting decoy or just your Jake and facing it away from you and still using like a little fishing line or something, that way when you have a bird coming in, you can pull that, and then when you pull it, it's facing you now. One, it gives them movement, and two, now they've seen the bird move and they still got to come around the front. Yep. So setting your decoy that way so you can move it.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say is now that we're using a movable, we have something electronic, which it's legal where we're hunting at. It doesn't matter which way we face it because we can turn it.
You can turn it back.
Yeah, so, I seem to – but what I like to do all the times I've got my Tom or my Jake facing where the turkey's gobbling from or where I think they're coming from. And once they make eye contact with my decoy, I turn that decoy so his head goes away, and then it seems like it's like, oh, no, you didn't. You're not going to show me your backside.
Yep.
And here they come. So it makes all the difference in the world. Multiple, I guess, if the one that you could probably do away with the easiest is the laydown hen. It's the one that's not seen probably until they get there.
Yep.
But it's the one that
I like that one a lot.
But for a bow hunter, it holds them. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of times we're putting the hen the Jake or the Tom in proximity to where we want to shoot, which for a bow, we're only like 10 yards. And I was explaining at the seminar at Spring Thunder, I don't do 6 yards anymore. It was too close. We're going out about 8 or 9 and try to keep them out there. And but putting that, I'll put the laydown hen probably within a yard of the Tom. And, man, watch them try to get in between there, and cut off that Tom. It's pretty cool. We got some good video from Nebraska this year already of 4 Toms came in, and one of them gets in between, gets up on the decoy, while the other ones are beating up on the other Tom.
I still really I cannot believe I've never had a Tom come in and just beat the crap out of my decoy.
That's because you shoot them before they
It's very true. I don't wait very long.
But
that could be part of it.
So, but you asked the question, I think, at the beginning, like, what is some of our most memorable hunts? I think when you say that, the one that keeps coming to mind, but I've got several. But the reason this one is I told you guys, and you may or may not remember what I know you know what I call it, but you may not know why. And I call it the Pied Piper.
Yes, we know why. We may not have seen the show, Dad.
It wasn't a show. I had to look this up for Shane because me, him, and Eli are sitting in the blind in Nebraska, and I said that. That's how we got the Tom and the 2 Jakes to come. As I said, I call this the Pied Piper. We're going to walk up to the fence. We saw them, make some calls. When they start to commit, we run back and get in the blind. And I've done it. Me and you did it in South Dakota.
So I think preface for people, why not just call from the blind?
Because they couldn't hear us.
Yes. That's why you're going out there.
I went out to where I knew they could hear me, and then as they start to respond, I start backing away till I get back to the blind and then get in the blind.
And you've also done it with just a turkey fan.
Well, that's where I was. Yours is probably the longest.
Hold on. So what was the Pied Piper meaning?
So the Pied Piper is a story. What do they call the
a folklore?
Folklore, I guess, or something like that. The kids, like Hansel and Gretel and all these other Cinderella or whatever,
Finding Nemo.
I guess if that was a newer one. But anyhow, so
what's it? 1016 Wallaby Way.
How do you remember that?
I don't
is
know.
That right?
I think it is.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it is. Shut up, Nick. You don't know.
But
I thought I was the one that watched Nemo over and over when I was a kid, not you.
You did. That's why I remember.
I don't remember it.
Okay, so my point is the Pied Piper, though, was this mythical person that went into a city, played his flute, and all the rats came out. And all the rats followed him out, and he ridded the town of. And so it's basically using a musical instrument to make the whole thing, the whole embodiment do something.
And follow you.
And follow you. Yes. And so that's where I started calling it that. And so we did it then. But on Easton's case, it was the Pied Piper, but this bird was like...
We did it. It was over 3/4 of a mile.
It was so far away.
3/4 of a mile?
3/4
that was like straight line. Like
this is a Miriam or an Eastern?
No, this is an Eastern.
Okay. Eastern. We drew a line from where the blind was to where the bird was, and as a crow flies on onyx, it was 3/4 of a mile.
It was, and he was sleeping through 90% of it. And
he was calling to something way out there. I'm like, screw that.
I'm like, there's a strutting Tom out there, and I started calling. Then I went back to the blind and got the decoy, brought the decoy up and stood it on.
I came up there with you for that.
Yeah, you did for that. That's when I said, I got a strutting tom out here in the field. I didn't tell him how far away it was. And so we got up there, and I stuck that decoy, and I think he might have helped me, on top of the fence post.
As high as we could get
it's
it.
like 6-7 feet in the air, and I'm spinning it around and doing all this, and I'm calling, and then next thing I know, I'm like, I think he's coming, Easton. No, whatever. And I said, well, he went out of sight. If he comes back up that next ridge, he's going to be 500 yards away, but he will have come
a long
ways. And all of a sudden, he came up that ridge, and he was like that far away. So we started creeping back, and then kept calling. He kept coming. And then we finally had to leave
just
him.
Get to the blind.
I said, let's
just
go to the
bailed.
And we took off, jumped in the blind. It was probably 10 minutes. We're like, man, I don't know. And all of a sudden, top that hill, and blah, 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 there he comes, and he made a great shot.
And shot him at 10 yards.
Yeah, it was. But so
I think that's something interesting for people to know. Like a Miriam, I don't think that a 3/4 of a mile calling one in is all that uncommon.
no,
Where Easterns, that's from our experience here in Iowa, that's a long, long ways to get
Yeah.
a bird to come.
Yeah. For sure. I'm trying to think. I think I had one. I didn't have on X back then. They weren't invented yet. A Miriam in Montana that I believe was over a mile.
Oh, I believe it.
He was way up there.
That's the other thing with Miriams that is so much different than Easterns. I'd be curious to hear about Osceolas too, because they sound like they're pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
But like a Miriam, we had several times where we'd screw them up that day, or we'd shoot one in the morning or something, and then we'd go back and go to a little different spot and change our decoys and call
Same
them right
birds.
back in and
Yep.
shoot another one. Where Easterns, you are not doing that.
No, you get one chance.
Yeah, I mean, if you get to do that twice in a season, I think that you did something. If you get to do it twice in a day, I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah, I don't know.
They did it last year with Nick. They shot.
Jakes don't count.
No, they did. I guess the Jakes that he killed a Jake, didn't he? Yeah, because they shot.
Yeah.
They shot, and in the same flock, they went back the next morning.
Yeah, Jakes don't count.
Jakes count.
We're talking toms here.
I don't know.
If anybody was gonna,
If anyone, you shot the same bird 4 times in a season, or 3 times.
yeah,
2 times
One-
with a bow and 1 time with a shotgun, and we're not talking about all at the same time. We're talking about over the course of the season. We didn't know you were hunting the same turkey, and
which we had to reap him the third time though,
Right.
with the shotgun. Yeah,
In
yeah,
the
that was
pouring rain.
twice though.
but he had 2 holes in him.
Hmm
Plus a third on his head.
That was the beginning of my problems, and that was not my fault because I actually pinwheeled that bird.
That was a faulty arrow
Yep, it was one of the
design.
victories in
That-
the first
When the
outserts, and it broke. Hit the wing button.
Oh yeah, it
broke.
turned sideways.
well, they'd bend.
Yeah.
They
Yep.
would just bend, and that would take all your kinetic energy away, and so then it wouldn't go in.
Yep.
All right. So anyhow, I guess getting back to what your initial question though was, having done all those other things, having sat outside a blind, no decoy, having sat outside of a blind with a decoy, with a shotgun, and then climbed into a blind. If you want to bow hunt for turkeys and you want to be successful, a blind and decoys is going to put your success rate way up the
I
chart.
suggest that for just anybody getting into turkey hunting to learn them, because it gives you a lot more forgiveness when they're coming in, as far as you start to learn when you can move, when you can't move, and you can put some decoys out and get the hang of that a little bit, and then start. If
Absolutely.
granted, some of this is probably some of the older school guys will argue start in the woods or start like against a tree and stuff, because it's going to be a lot harder and you're going to learn it. You're going to learn every bit about them as opposed to going the other way. But you can do it both ways.
Well,
Not one
you
way.
just saw hunted with some friends of ours down in Alabama, and he got 2 kids, and he just found a blind. Like,
This is the first time they've ever used an actual blind.
Right.
Their reference to a blind is sticks piled up.
right.
Hmm
But that blind made a huge difference for 2 boys. What are they, 8 and 9?
8 and 9, yeah. But they're also, and this is, anybody that listens to us in the South is probably going to want to like shoot me in the head after this one. But a lot of them, I talked to so many of them about using a blind, because they're terrified to use a blind. And so,
Thinking the birds are going to spook from them.
yes, and so Kyle and everybody was saying that if they use one, they're going to set it there for 2-3 weeks and then use it like we do a deer if you don't
Right.
brush it in. And I told Kyle, I said, and I told him this before I was talking to those guys that said that, because I don't know the birds down there that well, but I was like, dude, you got 2 kids that are moving around. Take your blind and go wherever you need to go. It's not a big blind at all. Like, take it down, take it to the next spot, whatever. It's not hard to move. So move it where you need to move it. Don't just leave it in one spot because you're scared to use it. And that next morning, well, that night, those guys told me that. I was like, oh, great. I hope I didn't, like, totally screw up Kyle.
Everything.
Well, he went and they had birds not care at all. That they put in a new spot. They were within, like, 40 yards of them. They just couldn't get him to come in. And I said, did they even look at the blind? He goes, no, they didn't ever pay attention.
It's just like people out west say you can't bugle at elk.
Yeah. And so I think theirs is more of a logical thought process as opposed to experimental.
You're putting a building in their place and think
sense.
that they're not going to pay attention to it, but they do, or they don't.
Yeah.
To an extent, but then again, just like what Warren was saying a minute ago, just keep in mind that with anything, if more people are using it and more things are happening, they do get used to, hey man, those square things don't always go like they're supposed to when I see those.
We normally lose a friend every time we walk up to that.
We'll walk around this thing. But I've had turkeys, especially out west, use the blind as a way to hide.
Oh yeah.
Come around behind the blind and they're in the decoy and he's like looking around like if you could have reached out and grabbed him. A kid named Brock killed his first Jake.
Yeah.
The Tom was against the blind, so we couldn't shoot him. He shot the Jake that was at the decoy.
Well, I think we've gone over the majority of types. The only one we haven't touched on is the controversial.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Reaping.
I like it.
And I don't know. I'm going to just go ahead and make the stance of I don't know why it needs to be controversial. I'm in agreement with it in case you were wondering with that statement.
I'm in
with
agreement.
Reaping?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that, one, I don't know that it I guess I don't feel like it had been really controversial until like the last year or two.
I've started
now it
hearing
seems
it too,
like there's a lot of
especially when you
people
said it.
stating, and most of that comes from just videos we've posted of like you reaping one. We got a whole bunch of people, and then can't remember if there was some other ones, but anyways, I've been seeing some people saying that that it's a little bit more not held as in high regard as everybody as it seemed to used to be. Which I could see a few things like that. One, I do think that it's a probably too effective way of killing turkeys. I do think it's a really, really effective way of killing turkeys, and I do think maybe it could have a contributing factor to the total harvest numbers. Maybe that's why some of the numbers are down. And I do think that the amount of turkeys that you could see driving around here before reaping was a really known thing, and now is two different things. Like it seems like they've almost learned something not to go near the roads during season or something and be strutting around in the fields all over the place because I don't see them doing it near as much.
I don't know if I would say that I haven't noticed that much of a difference driving around. I think it's just a matter of they're not as consistent, I don't feel like, every single year. Like you'll find them a lot of times in the same areas, but if you've hunted them a lot in that one area or they've moved or like the number of turkeys is quite a few less than what there is of deer. So I feel like that you're going to have different areas where they're going to show up. But maybe you're right. But I also don't think
what you could probably do is we could probably go back and look and see when reaping really became a thing, like when it came to the forefront.
I was not that I was the first one to do it by any means, but with Jeremy was the first time. That was
Jeremy seemed to be the first person doing it a lot.
Yeah, he was.
And he wasn't. There was actually Native Americans were doing it apparently, like down in Florida and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were using tails. Will Primos will talk to you about it being done 30 years ago.
Really? I did not know that.
But they didn't call it anything. They just, talked about having a tail. They're like, yeah, you could just walk. He just walks behind this tail and walks right at him. But it wasn't, I think, the video and social media.
Everybody started seeing it.
Especially
like 2010
because
to like 13 in theirs where it seemed to like blow up.
Well, and that's when social media started to get big and hunters were putting stuff on there. And you got to admit, the video that has been captured from that is crazy. I mean, I've seen blood splatter on a camera.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but that's kind of gross.
So anyhow, it's been around for a long time, but it's gotten a lot more, a lot more popular or a lot more more mainstream that lots of people are doing it.
I think we should preface as well, like I support it. I enjoy doing it. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it's a lot of fun to see the birds interact, especially when they're kind of, in a way, interacting with you. But there's certain places, like I would never do it on public land.
Correct.
I would never do it on even the places I have permission. I won't do it on because I don't know when there's other guys in there. The only times I'm doing it is
like
when
in the timber is not a good deal.
Yes, and if I am doing it in the timber, one, that's not the ideal situation to do it with a bird in the first place. Second off, I'm doing it on a place that I'm the only one that can hunt, or like you guys are hunting it too, and I just know that like you guys know that I'm going to be in there, kind of thing. So that's safety, number one. Number two, I could see the unfairness of, I'll give you, as long as you're willing to crawl sometimes. Yeah, it might be a long ways, but I mean physically wise, but as long as you have the right setup and you crawl at the right, it doesn't even really have to be the right bird. Unless it's a chicken bird, it'll run the other way. But the majority of them, you can crawl at them, and if you got a shotgun, it's pretty, like, the success rate is
high,
very high. So I could understand that aspect of looking at it like, okay, this is a little excessive. It's not fair. The one I would say we were just talking about it. If you're doing it with a bow, completely different story.
Absolutely.
I would tell you that with reaping with a shotgun is the easiest way to go kill a bird altogether, out of all the different ways you can think of.
Easiest way to get a shot.
Yeah, easiest way to get a shot. I think that reaping a turkey with a bow is the absolute hardest way to try it. The only one that I can't talk on that I think would be a little harder is just flat out sitting against a tree with your bow and trying to shoot one.
I think Dad has fixed that.
Yeah, that's
honestly.
I'm not saying strapping another decoy on your bow. I'm saying you just take one, because like that, I did that with one, and it was like, oh, this is kind of a cakewalk. Not that it was super easy, but because it's a lot to carry when you're crawling. Mm-hmm. And what we're talking about there is you get your regular decoy that you crawl behind, strut and decoy, and then you take like a 2D tom.
Ultimate Predator is the one that makes a two-dimensional decoy that mounts to your bow, straps to your bow.
Strap it on your bow, so then it looks like two toms walking at them. But that way you can stick the decoy in the ground, and so when you have to get to full draw, that's the hard part, because if you get to full draw outside of the decoy, they see you. If you pop out too much, they see you, and they'll fly away. And when I say fly, like a lot of times they're gone. But with that, you can draw while they're walking at you, and it works really well. But doing it no other decoy, just your strutter. One, you got to know a bird extremely, like body language, very well. You got to know when to push forward a little bit more to get them not to come running in. And you got to be able to know, like, can I get to full draw behind the decoy without it seeing me? And can I slide out to the side, or can I wait for him to pop out to the side and then shoot him? Like, there's a lot that goes into doing it without both of them. But
I think maybe I'm going to do a little research for us and compile some of the harvest reports and see if you can see if there's a national difference from, say, 2010
to now,
before to now. Yep.
Like whether people are killing more turkeys or not?
Like, yeah, like if all of a sudden it started
they have those statistics.
tailing down. Yeah, I know.
I wonder how hard it is to find them, though.
It's going to depend. The problem, too, though, is I don't know how many states it's illegal in. And
yeah, there are some states.
Well, that's the other thing, though, too. There for a while, it wasn't illegal. It wasn't until it got very popular that it became illegal.
Well, we should back up a little bit and make sure that we explain so someone understands, because I meet people every day that never heard of turkey reaping.
A lot of them don't.
Yeah, they don't know what
They may have seen the video, but they don't know the name.
Right. And when we refer to turkey reaping, what we're referring to is taking a strutting tom, regardless of whatever decoy you want, but they make some that are designed for this, and crawling. And so what you're looking for is a bird that is usually one of the toughest birds to kill if you're doing any of the traditional ways, because he's already out in the field and you can't get to him. So holy cow.
He's got to just, wow.
We lost one of our members.
Bladder infection over here.
But what we're referring to is taking a decoy and crawling at a turkey out in the wide open where you can see him. And normally that bird is kind of off limits as far as other hunting, techniques.
I would even say that, like, some of your birds that are like chicken bird, we call them chicken birds, that may only come into 60, 70 yards to our setup, decoy setup or something. A lot of those birds, even if you push them hard enough, like sometimes if you push them too hard, they're going the other way.
Right, they'll take off.
You're kind of just messing with them and educating them. But if, like, we had the one that was down in that big green field that I crawled at, and goodness gracious, that freaking tom was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I could keep pushing him until finally he would break. and find when he broke, and then I screwed it up. But
no, there's what you didn't really screw it up as much as that's what happens. They come running.
yeah,
And they're going to beat up on this Tom. He's gotten too close, and he comes running. When he comes running with a shotgun, you could kill him. But with a bow, you got to get the full draw, and he's got to stop at some point, and he just didn't stop. I mean, he just runs in, and then but that's where what we're doing is using one Tom to crawl behind, and the other Tom is mounted to your bow. And now the Ultimate Predator makes theirs, and I'm not taking anything away from their decoy, but I went and put a real fan on mine and then put a 3D head on mine.
Yeah.
So that it really looks legit when you come out from behind the decoy.
But I will also preface that one, and I do think that if you get that set up correctly, it's not going to be like just as effective as a shotgun, but you're right up there with a shotgun. That defeats the whole issue of trying to draw and figure out when to move and stuff. So just for clarification purposes, that version versus one strutting decoy with your bow, two separate things. Like there's a handful of people I've met that have actually done it. You're one. I did it last year, and then I've talked to some people that have done it, but you should ask them if they have done it
and how many
times they've tried it. Because I wasn't solely doing it every year, but I probably did 10 or 15 different freaking crawls
for sure.
before I actually got one to work correctly coming in, and I get a shot. Granted, it was a 4-yard shot, but just kind of cool. We got our bladder infection back.
Yeah. All right. So anyhow, that we were talking about reaping. We've talked about all the different decoy setups. The one thing that I guess we didn't talk about, and that is the things that what I look for in a decoy is I want glass eyes and I want to add real feathers.
Real feathers is, in my opinion, number one.
The moment that you buy a strutting Tom, you need to take whatever they give you and get rid of it and put a real tail on there, and it will make so much of a difference.
Granted, some of them do it. Some of the decoy companies do it now where you can just fit the fan itself in there. But I just looked, and Primo still sells the little
thing that you slide them in.
They sell it with the decoy now. Yeah. So then you can use their fan, or they sell you the little bracket where you got to pull each individual feather out.
Yeah, but the great thing about it is it folds up. But
that's
what's nice about it. So it folds up, goes inside the decoy.
I didn't think that was still around.
Yeah, I have several of them.
Yeah.
But
that's one way to do it.
The other one though is, and I can just tell you that I don't have one myself, but I think that we would be absolutely like decoy wise 100%. Is remember when we hunted with Robbie in Nebraska and he had that hen that had the feathers on her?
Yep.
She was money, and that was the ugliest looking hen you've ever seen. I don't remember what decoy it was, but he didn't spend much money on that decoy.
Well, but didn't he like skinned one basically and would pull it over?
No, he had put 2 wings, and so then he put a bolt through there that would hold it, and it had the wings on the side, pretty much covered the whole thing.
Yeah, I remember Curtis took that first one you helped him kill too, and he dolled up his decoy, and it looked really good. Like he took the wings and had it strutting.
He painted the head and everything too.
Did he paint the head?
Oh yeah, he went all out.
Hey, it looked good though.
It did look really good, but at the same time, if you're gonna do that, you could also say just go get yourself a mounted strutting Tom. Put that out there because we know that works extremely well too.
Yeah, Mr. T.
Mr. T was hard.
Very, very hard. Yeah, mobility wise, he was
terrible.
Awful.
Yeah, but effective.
Man, he worked.
I can't. So I was doing the Shane back then. I would crawl out, set my decoy back up, crawl back in the blind, and he'd come right back in.
Goodness
I mean, we had one Tom that day that Mom shot Droopy Butt that came in 4 times.
I can't believe how long that mount lasted.
I killed 13 turkeys over it.
Yeah, and pretty much every one of them probably beat the crap out
of
him.
All of them.
Yeah.
I mean, because you couldn't shoot them fast enough. They would come running in and just karate. Oh, chop!
Judo chop.
I think other than that, other than Droopy Butt, that bird in Idaho, the one that flew off the mountain.
Yeah.
That was the one I was thinking of when you were saying what would be like some of the most memorable hunts. That one,
if
Droopy
only
Butt was psycho though. That bird was nuts.
I wasn't on that hunt, so I don't.
Yes, you were. You were sleeping.
Oh, well, that's why I don't remember.
Shocker.
Yeah, what was I, 3?
Probably 5 or 6.
Yeah, so
something like that.
But that bird came from like a mile, And then he came from a long, long ways
And
away.
remember, the last time he came in was after Mom had already clipped his butt.
Yeah.
And he came in and then saw the decoy and was like, oh, no. He took off running. I thought it was a skunk coming.
That was that
That's funny.
afternoon.
That was in the afternoon.
After he'd already come in.
3 times.
Yeah.
And Mom had shot at him twice. Hit him on the last one.
Yeah, because then when he strutted, didn't it look funny?
His tail would hang there. He couldn't lift his tail anymore. She clipped just the microscopic part of his tail. And so when he would strut, he would boom, and all his feathers would stand up except for his tail. So we called him Droopy
We
Butt.
shouldn't laugh at that.
It didn't seem to affect him that much.
Didn't seem to bother him. He was nuts. So, but the one that Warren's talking about in Idaho, I had the little camera with us. But I had no idea the bird was going to come flying in. I'm thinking, so just to kind of give people a perspective, Warren and Karen are set up in a ground blind with the decoy, with Mr. T out, and we've got a little bank behind them.
We didn't have Mr. T.
No.
We had a regular
we
decoy
hyped
there.
him up there.
Yeah.
This was like legit mountains.
Oh, yeah.
Just so people know, like we were like this is elk hunt. We were seeing
Absolutely.
elk as we were turkey hunting.
For sure. And so, but you remember that mound came up behind them. We were probably 20 yards above them, something like that. Not too far away, but not close enough we could talk to them or anything like that. And we were calling, and this bird is freaking out on top of and in front of them is the mountain. I mean, literally a big-ass mountain that goes up the hill. And he is up on that mountain, and we start calling to this bird, and he's freaking out, and I'm thinking,
You guys hit one call.
yeah.
We called on the way, knew he was up there. Then you guys hit one call because my arrow wasn't even hardly fully knocked.
And he just
Pitched.
and came flying, but I just never
He
forget.
flew in, cupped like a freaking
Yes,
goose.
he looked like a goose because when he was flying, I just remember seeing him look.
His head is like,
He looked over and saw the decoy and went, dove in.
He was going to fly right over it.
Yeah, because he was coming like over top of us.
Oh, he flew right over us.
well,
That's how
we
I
have
knew.
the shadow of him. We didn't get him on film. Mom actually has the camera on filming the decoy, and you see the shadow go over the decoy.
And we heard it, and Mom was like, "What the heck?" And we just hear,
Yep.
and then you can see the shadow on there. And I told Mom, I was like, "I think he just flew in." And I'm like trying to get my arrow knocked, and she's like, "What? No way!" And then I peek out, and here he freaking comes. I'm like, and
Imagine our view. We're watching a bird fly right now.
It was
it's a
so
freaking
cool.
T-15 turkey tomahawk.
It was pretty impressive to see
Insane.
how fast he was going and to cut on a
To
dime
turn,
like he
yeah.
did.
I would like to know if anybody else has ever had a turkey pitch off of a mountain or a hill to come in. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen a turkey
Did you kill
do.
that bird?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah,
Yeah, he
that's
had
the
a
one.
huge beard.
I knew
and
you
stuff.
shot it, but I
That's
didn't
the one
remember
where
if you
you're
actually-
dancing.
Oh, yeah.
We got a monster.
Oh, yeah.
Remember he went over the hill.
Yeah, now I do.
I don't remember how he made it over the hill, but
No, but it was good.
But if I remember, that was a pretty dang impressive shot, if I remember right. Was it not?
we
like
should have it
12
on video.
yards, quartered away.
Maybe that's why I was thinking it was quartered away.
It was.
That was a really cool hunt.
But what you talk about now, this one wasn't hunting, and because it wasn't ethical, but it's funny. But it's exact. There was a guy in Lewistown, and I stopped at it just to knock on his door to ask him if I could turkey hunt because I seen turkeys there, and he said, "Well, sure." And I was like, "Great." But right behind his house, about 150 yards, there was a big rock cliff. I mean, when I say rock cliff, I'm talking 150 yards to the tops of the rocks. And anyhow, he says, I said, at the time, no OnX, so I don't know exactly where he, I'm asking him where are the borders and stuff like that. And he said, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I was going to get my decoy and stuff. You don't need to do that. And I'm like, I don't know what you mean. And he's got a garden right here in front of his house. I mean, we're standing literally in his driveway.
Oh, Lord.
And he goes over and grabs a metal bucket, and inside the metal bucket is a coffee can. And he starts shaking it. And he's shaking, here, turkey, turkey, turkey. And I'm like, I don't want to really hunt a turkey. I don't know what you're doing, but, and I was kind of laughing. I mean, the guy just gave me permission to hunt, I'm not trying to be rude. And he says, just wait a minute. Here, turkey, turkey. And about that time, a turkey shows up on top of that rock cliff and pitched off there and comes flying down and lands right in the driveway. And I'm like, a wild turkey. And he says, there you go. And I was like, I don't
just like the lady in Nebraska.
Yeah, that told us to shoot it off her porch.
Yeah, she said, yeah, you guys can hunt, but you have to shoot that one right there.
Yeah.
And there's one strutting in the yard. And
it was a wild one too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then Dad was like, oh, we don't really want to do it. She's like, he's an asshole. And
She's like 80.
Yeah, and he would chase her every time she'd go to her car.
What the heck?
And then he was like, and then Dad was like, oh, well, we'd really like to kind of hunt them, And she's like, no, I know how this works. You get more than one tag. So you can shoot that one right there, and then you can hunt the other one.
You have an entry fee.
What was happening is he had found the bird feeder, and it was on the other side of her car. So every time she tried to get in her car, he thought she was trying to take away the bird seat, and so he was pecking at her and everything else, and she was tired of it.
I'm surprised she didn't walk out there with a shotgun and say, I'll take care of you.
I don't think she had one. She was so glad to see us. She's like, absolutely shoot him.
Yeah. Which tells why you're on my court again.
Oh,
That's why we knocked on the door in the first place, is because
there's
turkeys in the yard.
Oh, boy. That's funny.
But now,
you had to have had a red flag, though, when you pull in and they don't run away.
No, but I mean, that's not uncommon to see them in yards and stuff like that in
turkeys back then.
Nebraska.
Yeah.
But now Pop killed one that flew across a pond.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean, in the only turkey that I've ever killed or I've been a part of that we've killed that no beard whatsoever. I mean,
That's the one you guys got in the frame of the bathroom.
Oh yeah, he's a full fan. Had an inch right at 3/4 of an inch spurs, and everything, and no beard whatsoever. And now he did a Joey, but he did it on purpose. He was like, I ain't missing this turkey, so he just blew him away, blew feathers everywhere. Because I had just finished telling him he's not going to come, Pop, and he's like, why? And I said, because there's a pond there, and they just don't fly across. I mean, it's a big pond, probably 150 yards across.
Oh,
and
shoot.
Yeah, and next thing I know, I'm like, I think I hear, here he comes. But he was flying right at us, so I saw him coming, and we were uphill. So
I just shoot him out of the air.
No, he landed about 30 yards away and then ran to like 25.
Cut him.
That's crazy.
Yep. So, yeah, we've had some pretty good call-ins, but you guys had four toms the one day that came to you guys right before dark.
Yeah, the craziest one we ever had was on the fence.
That was nuts.
We were trying to go back to that same spot that you were talking about.
That.
And we saw, so we were trying to get back to the spot my dad's talking about where we'd always see these turkeys in the evening they would roost along this creek bottom. And we were running late, actually, I think. And so East and I are booking it, trying to get back there. And I think we were smart enough. We went slow over that hill.
Yeah, we did.
And we
used the fan to get over the hill.
Yeah, but he didn't see us.
He didn't know.
So
we just used it for cover.
Yeah, and so we peek over the hill and we see this bird at like 60, 70 yards and strutting right there. And we're like, oh, crap, what do we do? And at this time, I'm like 16 and Easton's 12, I think.
Yeah.
And there was like 3 or 4 small cedar trees, like 4 feet on the fence. And so we're like, let's get in the cedar. So we put the decoys out. We have the blind and everything, but we didn't set it up.
Time to set it up.
Yep. And so we just put the decoys out at like 6 yards in front of us. If
I
that
remember
far.
right, all we did is we got me set up for the camera, and then you crawled out with one decoy. I don't even think we put multiple out. You just put the tom out.
That could be. Well, and then we started calling, and here he came, and he came right up the fence. So we're on the fence, and then he comes up the fence. And then, when they're on a fence, they're trying to figure out where to come get by it. He's walking by Easton and I from closer than me and Easton.
Not in a blind.
We're talking feet.
Right.
He was probably 2 feet or less.
Yeah,
he was just, the only difference was he was on the other side of the fence. And you could hear him, and he's just, shh, and then, and so then he couldn't get through the fence. And so he goes out there probably, 20 yard, or no, that's what it was. He was strutting behind us and just wouldn't come through the fence. So then I crawled out there and grabbed our decoy and turned it around and managed to get him to come a little bit. And then somehow Easton got the decoy. And so, or that's what it was. He went back, and so we were like, okay, this time you crawl out there with the decoy, and then I'll draw and shoot him. And so then Easton gets the decoy and crawls it and pulls him over just a little bit on the other side of the fence, and which we could hunt the other side of the fence too. And so when he does that, I get the full draw before he comes out, and I shoot him at 6 yards. And that one I thought I hit really good, and didn't find that one either.
Everywhere. Yeah.
But it was insane.
That was
no
some
blind,
massive
nothing.
Teamwork right there.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it was a cool one.
No, we've had some good. I mean,
that one pitched too, though, right away. He didn't even. He just all he did pretty much was
he was right
open
on the
his
edge
wings
of the hill
and
too. Yeah. So all he had to do is turn around and open his wings. We looked a long time for that bird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we never did find him. But so there's some of our turkey stories. I mean, I could probably think of lots of others, but because we've shot doubles where they jump up on top of one after you shoot it, and we've had them in the evenings are what seem to be like the shock us the most. Last year, the second bird you shot, I mean, we sat there until it was down to the wire because we were close to the end of the season too.
Yeah, that was another dad one where you were like, oh, we just need to hold on.
Yeah,
hold on.
He's over the hill. I know he's over the hill. Mm-hmm. And he came. But
well, if you guys have any questions too, or random things, I know we tried to cover a lot.
Or podcast topics.
Yeah,
but
any topics in general all the time. But
well, the great thing is about the turkey stuff, this is going to go out, and turkey season is just starting. I mean, we're pretty fortunate, actually. Iowa's one of the earlier starts. I mean, granted, down south and the southeastern corner, they've already started, but a lot of seasons, Pennsylvania, they don't even start till May.
Yeah, I would not like
that. And New York, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of them are later. So if you guys have questions, we'll try to answer whatever we can, but shoot us whatever you got, and, we'll go from there. But if you can't tell, we love our turkey hunting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
There's
so many different ways to do it.
Yep. And we're not saying we're doing it the right way. We're just doing it a lot. That's all. So is that it? We good?
I think so. Good.
All right, fellas, gals, and guys and gals, we sure appreciate you. And that's the Raised Hunting Podcast signing off. Thank you very much.